This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your...
Indeed, it is at 9 minutes after 8 o'clock, getting into the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this first day of the year 2025. And getting into conversations this morning, we've come off a conversation where we're asking, where are Kenyans who've been taken, who've been abducted in the middle of the night in broad daylight? Where are they? And what is the reasoning behind all of this? And who then bears the responsibility to make sure that this does not continue? We were to be joined by the senator from Busia, Okiom Tata. He sent in his apologies. Definitely he's going to have a busy day today as he's going to be involved in the demos that are taking place, and he's asked that he come tomorrow. And he's given us a call this morning and says, tomorrow at 7, I will be there. So just letting you know that. We're going to have another conversation this morning, and our guest is already seated. He's no visitor. He's no stranger.
He's no visitor Jerusalem.
Right. I heard my visitor Jerusalem. That's where I wanted to go. But he's no stranger to the Situation Room. And Ramogi Odhiambo is an economist, and he's with us this morning. Ramogi, good morning.
Good morning.
New Year's greetings to you. I've changed my salutations for
Nah. That thing is sweet when you say Happy New Year.
Is it sweeter?
It is.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Good to have you in the room. Are you well?
I am. Thank you very much.
Fantastic.
Good to be back.
Good to have you here.
Right.
We're going to be looking at the state of the
Am
economy.
I your first guest this year?
Yes.
In fact, clap for yourself. It's very good. Notice you're our first guest.
The man is happy.
He's happy.
Yeah.
We are happy that
we're happy that you're happy and spreading some of that gold dust on all of us.
Thank you very much.
Karibu Sana.
Asante.
We're going to be looking at the state of the economy today and looking at some numbers and looking at what ought to be. Where should the money be spent? Where has it not been spent? An update in terms of where we are. Before we do that, we want to welcome you properly. This new year, some old things remain, but there's a country from which CT is going to share today's proverb. CT, welcome our guest with today's proverb, will you?
Well, as I will. This country, let me just give you a hint. It's bordered in the northwest by southern Sudan, Ethiopia in the north, Somalia in the east, Uganda in the west, Tanzania in the south, and the Indian Ocean in the southeast. Which country is this?
That's Kenya. That's like hiding an elephant's face and telling which animal is this.
You would be amazed. A question like that has been asked before, and people give me some of the most interesting answers. This very, very studio. You probably remember your geography well.
Well, I loved geography.
See? See? There are people who geography don't like. Geography did a thing for them.
Yeah.
Now, our proverbs will be in the language of Kiswahili. Kufanikiwa maishani unahitaji vitu viwili, ujinga na ujasiri.
I'm going to leave it to you, man. I learned new words.
Sijasema upumbavu. Nimesema tu ujinga.
Ujinga.
Yes.
Kwanza kabisa mimi natoka katika hiyo taifa umesema. But I've never had that msemo or mithali before. So this is my first time interacting with it. But if I might imagine what the proverb means, to be successful, you need a little bit of foolishness, ujinga, and courage. On the front of courage, I think I agree totally that confidence has made a lot of people very successful. On the part of stupidity, I think perhaps maybe I can marry it with the phrase that we lose a lot because of our paralysis of analysis. So if you're smart, you want to overanalyze a situation. If you're not as smart, just this thing can be done, let's do it. So people who are stupid tends to do more than people who are not.
Or even say more.
No, but even when you say Ujinga, is it just somebody who's probably not informed? Not that he's stupid, he just doesn't have the information.
Or less wise.
Or less educated. Yes. Yes, because what education does is it provides you a lot of knowledge.
Yeah.
That's what it does.
Right.
Yes. Now, as to whether you're schooled or whether you're educated, now the putting into practice what you've learned will tell us that. But again, somebody who doesn't have that benefit, as you say correctly,
Right.
will use what he has, and he will not. There'll be nothing, not too much information running interference with what it is he wants to do.
Yeah, because you don't remain a fool forever.
Right.
I would
No,
assume.
you don't.
Right.
No, you don't.
Yeah. And,
There was a general feeling among labor economists that people who've gone to the university struggle to get employment more than people who've gone to TVET institutions. Because TVET graduates tend to land on any job. Bora kazi.
Yeah.
A university graduate, however, was...
Knows they're a university graduate.
Yes.
Yes, and they also know what should suit them.
Correct.
And also, a lot of what you said in the university is theoretical.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, Ramogi, we're looking at an update of the economy this morning, and you know, just to give a little bit of an overview, and say, okay, so here are some spots that perhaps need to be looked at.
Right.
So, yesterday what's today? Today's Monday, so it was on Saturday. Yes, actually, yesterday it was announced that the ministry released 50% of capitation, and we heard from CS Ogamba that this is 50% of how much is going to be was required for the year 2025, which is fantastic. 50% in January. Now, whether that was released and whether schools, two totally different things. No. We did also hear at the end of last year, which is just 2 short weeks ago, that some counties were yet to pay their staff because, all right, cash flow, a problem.
Right.
Money hadn't yet come in. We also, have things here and there that were causing issues. The doctors called off their strike really the last minute because they had not been, certain parts of the CBA, which they went back to work for in May, had not been fulfilled. And the cash flow issue, another one.
Right.
Again, going back to education, some teachers have been hired, but not on a permanent and pensionable basis because, again, not enough money to be able to get that done. 16,000 classrooms should have been completed by December 2024. That has not happened. I don't think we've even reached the half mark yet. Again, not enough in terms of money to be able to get that done. And yet, helicopters are flying all over the place.
Right.
The things that you would think would be given attention to are not. To give an update in terms of what's really happening, the economy not doing too badly, food is a little bit cheaper. The president did speak on New Year's Eve, and he talked about in Kisi, and he talked about, what have we done with agriculture? What have we done with education? What have we done to be able to make sure that there's food on the table at a cheaper price for Kenyans? Those would give indications that the economy is doing a little bit better than it was a year ago when, there was the Sufuria revolution like we talk about. Yeah? Is it doing better? Are we looking at an upending of the economy? Where are we?
Well, it's a complex question that I get a lot, and to answer it needs some time. But let me try to answer it in 3 parts. The fiscal, the monetary, and the general overview of my expectations moving forward. Every economy is a two-winged bird where we have the fiscal policy and the monetary policy. Actually, let me start with the monetary policy because I think it's the easier one. We are doing much better in terms of the inflation figures that we saw in November. It went to 2.8. In December, it came up to 3%, possibly driven by Christmas buying.
Okay.
And that demand drove it up to 3% flat. But if you compare it now with the interest rates are still comparatively high, around 11.5%. Our expectations in the coming year is that the Monetary Policy Committee will start to lower the interest rates. I'm trying to avoid monetary easing because last time CT was like, "But say it as it is."
Actually, monetize it as you like.
Yes.
So that I can ask you to explain it.
Right.
Yes, you just say it.
Thank you.
Yes, the index things will index the other. And the fiscal things will monetize the other. And then I'll ask you now, please explain. Yes.
Yeah, so monetary easing is when we start to lower the interest rates, and we expect that to start this year. Last year, they avoided it purely because they were still concerned about the inflationary pressures globally. Now, the global inflation rate in 2023 was 6.5%. Last year, it has come down to around 5.7%. It's expected to come down to 4 point something this year. So that has also changed because we are fully recovered, if I can put it that way, from the after effects of the COVID-19 situation. So and of course, the Ukraine war also affected inflation. So that has already the global economy has already shrugged off those shocks, and we are seeing a better performance moving forward. So my expectations are that monetary policy will ease off in 2025 because of these factors I've put across. Our foreign exchange, in terms of the dollar exchange, has also stabilized at 129, 130. We were not sure at the beginning of the last year. It wasn't at the same rate at the beginning of last year. But when now the situation changed around late February, early March, the feeling generally was that we had received some money, some investment from some American fund managers. And so that would be a temporary shrug. But we've seen that somehow the high interest rate has managed to strengthen the exchange rate. So I don't expect a major change on that, except we have a new gentleman in the White House. So if he comes up with some, extremist policies, and of course it's the favor that this government enjoyed with the Biden administration is no longer the case, telling from the resignation of the ambassador. So we do not expect that we'll enjoy some of the favors we were enjoying from the American government. Now, if he comes up with some extremist policies, obviously the exchange rate will be affected. Even if it doesn't, the exchange rate will be affected because a strong president means a strong dollar. And Donald Trump is a strong president. And so that means that we are expecting that the exchange rate will rise a little just to welcome the new president.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that good or bad for us?
It's not good when the exchange rate, when the dollar is strong, it's not good for any developing country because it means all the other currencies will suffer. And so ours will also suffer in the short run. But in the mid to long term, that will be totally dependent on the policies that they come up with at the White House.
But this isn't the first time we've had this discussion, or this is not the first time that what you're saying has happened.
Right.
Now, economists like yourself, what do you then advise governments in anticipation? Because every time a new American president comes in, there's always some movement in the economy. There's always some movement in the financial world. There's always some movement.
Yeah, ordinarily what the price rise means, or what the exchange rate rise means, is there's higher demand for dollar. So higher demand for dollar, there's very little governments can do around that. What you can do to counter it is maybe just oversupply of dollar. And right now, I don't think this administration is willing to give out their dollars so easily. So that, I don't think it's what you mitigate all other factors. But on this particular one, you are subject to the market forces.
Ramogi, how does this influence the cost of living in the country?
Yes, that would influence the cost of living in the country, because what that means is that now the things you are able to buy from China, the things you are able to buy from other countries, and you need the dollar for, you'll probably get more money out of your pocket, more shillings out of your pocket to access them. Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay. So, this all sounds very sexy, but at the end of the day, everybody's asking the question, all right, so if I see an economy that is doing really well, that means that I'm able to purchase more. I'm talking about as an individual. I'm not even talking about the policy level,
Right.
where all the money heads at Treasury are crunching the numbers.
Right.
We're talking about when you get onto the street, when you get into public transport, when you get to the market, when you buy. How does that translate to affect you when we say an economy is doing better? Can we see that translate to 55 million Kenyans doing better in their spend?
Monetary policy is doing better. The economy, on the other hand, is a bigger animal. Allow me, that question now sends me to the fiscal policy. I said it's a two-winged bird. There's the monetary and the fiscal. Fiscal simply means tax revenue and the expenditure of the same. Now, this is where the rubber meets the road, because the tax rate is high. The president has denied that our tax rate is high, but businesses are closing down.
116 just closed down a couple of days ago.
Right. Individuals are complaining that they are unable to meet some of the needs they were able to meet before. Households are struggling. If you make an overall household analysis, you will realize that things are not the same as they were. There's this thing we call fiscal consolidation that has been advised by the IMF that we pursue. Fiscal consolidation means that we get as much tax as possible from all the areas we can get it, and not leave out any gaps out of it. This will ensure that the tax we receive is able to pay all debts, including IMFs. Hello. And then but it will also mean that we have a stronger economy because we can spend much better.
This, what's the thing against what consolidation?
Fiscal consolidation.
Okay, now the understanding is that we raise more money, isn't it?
Right.
Okay. Does that mean we have to tax people more?
No. So there is what we call the Laffer curve. The Laffer curve says.
How do you spell this?
Laffer.
I thought it was Laugh.
So
you are laughing.
funny. It really does sound like a funny curve because I don't understand.
So at zero tax rate, I am willing to pay all the tax there is because after all it is zero. At 100%, me and all other Kenyans are unwilling to pay tax because I cannot give all my income. So there needs to be a point of equilibrium where I am willing to pay, but it is also going to make sense to the government. Before that point of equilibrium, you need to raise taxes so that it gets to that point, because anything under, you are collecting less than you can actually collect. Beyond that point of equilibrium, should you raise taxes, you are getting lower money or you are getting lower revenue. Now, we feel that we are beyond the point of equilibrium because the other day, I think Safaricom was told that we need to pay more taxes for our M-Pesa transactions. And then I think they got less money at the end of the year, which tells you that somehow, somewhere, the tax is affecting revenue negatively. When they raised taxes, we started receiving less revenue than what we received before Uhuru came to power. Before Uhuru left power. And so, does higher taxes always mean higher tax collection? The definite answer is no. There is a point where yes, it means higher revenue, but beyond that point, it no longer makes sense. And so, while of course the fiscal consolidation is recommending higher taxes, the results, however, have been negative.
So it sounds like it's counterintuitive.
It is.
So here you say that you want to be able to collect more in order to be able to do 1, 2, 3, but the measures that you put in place to collect this seem to be burdensome to the people that you're collecting from, because they're not going to buy, number one, because they're burdened.
Right.
So you're not going to be able to collect from there. They're not going to be active in those circles. So it kind of, one knocks out the other, right?
It does. And the other thing we've also seen, and I was having having a conversation the other day about more Kenyans now going back to cash-based transaction, because you don't want KRA looking at your M-Pesa and saying this guy has money, and because that means more taxes. Tax evasion comes when people feel like they are paying too much taxes, or when they feel that the taxes they are paying no longer make any difference to their welfare.
Okay.
And I think that's where we are. So in terms of fiscal policy, we are not doing as good as we should. But it's not just in terms of collection, it's also in terms of expenditure. Are we spending in areas that are a priority for the country? If you'd realize that, for example, when this administration came, they said they are going to spend in agriculture, they are going to spend in small and micro enterprises. If that expenditure program were to be put in place, then we would be somewhere today. The cost of food would have gone down and would have made a lot of sense.
No, come on. The president gave a speech on New Year's Eve, and one of the things that he mentioned, because I watched it, one of the things that he mentioned was agriculture that you've just mentioned now. And he said, tulileta mbolea, ilikuwa 7,000, saa hii iko 2,000 something. Kila mtu alipata mbolea. Wacha hizi stories za siasa, watu ambao wamesema there's no whatever. Right. He talked about that. He said that food is cheaper in the country. He said that. So is that not a direct translation? Hold on to that thought. Just hold on to that. Because I want to bring in another number for you.
Okay.
I have so many questions, and I know we're going to break in just a little bit, but let me just ask it like this. The target for KRA in 2024 was 2.74 trillion shillings. Right? They registered an 11.1% growth in collection. Right? 2.74 trillion shillings, of course, is not the amount on the budget. It's less by about, give or take, 1 trillion shillings. Right?
Yeah.
But if KRA collects that and then you do here and here, mix it all together in the pot, would you say that it would be enough from the collections to do the things that are in the budget? Would that have been enough to kind of cover the basis if that was actually collected? I'm going somewhere with this.
Yeah.
Would that be enough? 2.47 trillion shillings was KRA's target in 2024.
Yeah. No, it won't be enough.
Okay.
It won't be enough because our budget now is upwards of 3 trillion.
Exactly.
So then there will still be need to borrow just to meet the budget deficit. Budget deficit is usually around in the provinces of 700 to 800 billion. So it would still need to borrow.
Okay. Now, coming back to what I asked you to hold, you said that if we saw that there was a progression in the areas of agriculture and small business, SMEs, and MSMEs rather, if we saw that there was progression in those areas, then we would be able to say that, yes, this is actually working properly.
Right.
How do you ensure that between the monetary and fiscal, you actually see one translating to another?
Right.
If you see that on the global scale, things are working very well, inflation is down, things are happening, how do you get that to translate to CT's question of the table and the fork and the knife? How do you get to see that it's happening there and it is also happening here? Because people have said inflation is down, fantastic, but I cannot pay school fees for my children. I cannot buy food 3 meals a day.
And I'm out of a job.
And I don't have a job. I walk to where I'm going.
Yeah.
How do we say it's doing fantastically? People are clapping for you in front. You're wearing a golden dress, but behind it's dirty. How?
I think that's a very good question, and it's a very pertinent question that we've had conversations around with the national government saying that inflation rates have gone down and so Kenyans should clap and be happy, while Kenyans on the other hand saying no, we are not happy because we are unable to pay. And it boils down to this one thing we call income taxes. Those Kenyans with income are burdened by taxes, so they no longer have disposable income to spend. If at some point you had 200 shillings, but the cost of unga is 150, you can still buy that unga with your 150 and remain with 50 bob. If, however, we've taxed you significantly, but we've dropped the cost of unga to 120, however, your income now is 80 shillings. yes, the cost of unga has gone down, but I don't have the buying power to access the unga. So that's where we are. We no longer have the buying power. And so that's why Mwananchi is feeling like those are very rosy statements, but I still don't have the buying power. Now, how you sort that is twofold. One, you lower the cost of money. And you lower the cost of money, you lower the interest rate, so that then more and more people are able to access money to invest. And this investment creates employment, this investment creates circulation of money, and what we call the multiplier effect. The second thing you do is you lower the taxes, so that then you release more money into people's pockets. Because if I am paying half of my income to the government, it means then that there are things that I will have to forego. And so the new cabinet secretary promised that he will lower taxes, and then he comes up with the tax amendment bills of 2024 that seemed to mirror Finance Bill 2024. So it's like bringing Finance Bill 2024 through the back door. So we've not seen a commitment, we've not seen a fulfillment of some of those commitments to lower taxes. And for as long as the tax rate is high and the interest rate is high, Kenyans will continue to complain that they don't have money, even though your inflation rates are good.
Okay, let's take a break on that note. CT is breathing in because he has a question, but we'll take a break and come back and continue with that. Economist Ramogi Odhiambo is our guest this hour, and we're looking at an update of the economy and asking ourselves the question, okay, so where is Kenya at this point, and what needs to actually be done to ensure that we are getting on top of things, really? We'll take a look at weather and traffic, and we'll be back right after this.